Welcome back, water sports fans, for another action-packed edition of NC Sports Weekly News. Now in the top global headlines, celebrating 20 years of sailing excellence in Asia at the Singapore Straights Regatta. Top offshore pro sailors set off on the great quest for a single-handed record. The full report from senior correspondent Sébastien Destremaux. French extreme offshore rower Emmanuel Coindre is safe, has made contact, and is just hours away from his historic westward crossing of the Indian Ocean. Extreme Sailing Series 2014 off to a superstar season. A sit-down chat with race director Phil Lawrence for a very special preview. NC Sports, plunge into the action. By any standard, reaching 20 is a good measure of success in today's sports circuits, and the Singapore Straights Regatta is now a true classic on the Asian sailing panorama. Since 1997, this regatta is part of the Perpetual Cup Series, which crowns the top-performing yachts across the three key sailing events in Southeast Asia: the Raja Muda International Regatta, Phuket Kings Cup, and the Singapore Straights Regatta. The overall winner takes home the prestigious Sir Thomas Lipton Trophy, handed out by the Republic of Singapore Yacht Club. Mixing coastal and inshore regattas with multiple classes on the water, this 20th anniversary edition of Singapore Straits hosted IRC yachts, one design J24s, and a strong fleet of SB20 teams gathered here for their Asia Pacific Championship 2014. Recurring Dreams kept up the pressure and took the win in IRC Open. Chun Fung Tu set back Waka in the IRC C division, while Jianggan Mine had no rivals on the J24. On the packed course of the high-octane SB20s, Zhu Yuanzhen battled it out with John Pollard and Mike Buchanan to grab the top of the podium with an 8-point lead.
Welcome to the office. Holder of many oceanic records, Francis Joyon is the king of solo sailing. His kingdom is so prestigious that several of his fellow playmates are trying to have a go at it. The record chase is a bit like a treasure hunt, and Francis's fortress is under threats. Lionel Lemonchoix on Prince de Bretagne is tackling the express route to Mauritius in the Indian Ocean.
La Mauritienne, c'est entre l'Orient.
Mauritian is from Lorient, Port Louis to be exact, and Port Louis et Mauritius. It's an 8,000 miles record.
C'est 8000 milles de navigation.
Thomas Coville on board Sodebo sets out to conquer the round-the-world race record known to be extremely demanding.
I really want to go out and fight. In fact, this project belongs to me. A project very close to my heart. A project part of my story. A project I really carry in my guts.
Armel Le Cleac'h on Banque Populaire is about to embark on the discovery route towards the Bahamas. All these contenders have their shore teams on high alert before launching an assault on the King's Royal citadel, not without some apprehension.
Un petit peu d'appréhension de part, oui, comme d'habitude.
The fear of leaving, yes, a little bit as usual, but I really want to get out there. After a short while, this fear will disappear as we enter into the real game.
Et puis voilà, c'est parti, quoi.
But why do they decide to leave at the same time? It has been weeks and weeks of waiting for the right weather window.
Avec le nord-ouest, on part, on arrive en bordure d'anticyclone,
We must leave in a northerly wind and then sail on the edge of the high pressure. Then out of it, we latch onto the trade winds and eventually the doldrums. Sometimes the routing gives us only 5 days and 20 hours to reach the equator.
When the time is up, you gotta go. The waiting period cannot be extended any longer.
The hardest thing is to actually take the decision to go, but once the decision is made, it's a piece of cake.
The risk is to be caught at the end of summer in the southern hemisphere and its huge storms.
I'm ready to go. We have a full moon and it's 3 o'clock in the morning, a bit weird, and there's not too many people, but the best are here.
For Lionel, the fear is the possible cyclones towards the end of the trip.
I still have 2,000 miles to go when rounding South Africa before reaching Mauritius. It's a long way and the weather is not easy at all.
The weather window finally shows up late last week. Not an ideal one, but the sailors will put up with it.
It's a decent window as it gives us a good time to the equator of 7 days.
Both boats are finally casting off. The sailors can say their farewell to their loved ones and take on the huge battles ahead of them. To beat the time set by Francis Joyon, Cammas and Sodebo will have to come back in less than 57 days, 13 hours and 34 minutes. While the time to beat for Lionel and Prince de Bretagne is 26 days, 4 hours and 13 minutes. Staying put in his dungeon, King Francis will closely monitor these two assaults against his own record times. Rendezvous next week, same time, same place. Until then, goodbye and fair sailing.
After a dramatic storm and a communications blackout, extreme offshore rower Emmanuel Coindre has made contact. His signal is now back on the plotter, and he is just hours away from his historic westward crossing of the Indian Ocean. A potentially dangerous weather system had released all its might right along the path of the tenacious Frenchman, in what has already been the toughest of journeys. After setting off from Carnarvon, Western Australia on his long course on the morning of November 30, 2013, Coindre has already faced the fury and some tough challenges. 2 capsizes were a true baptism of fire, especially the tricky redressing maneuvers in the high seas. The problems then stacked up, getting all that water out of the boat, the dead batteries, and the carnage of most electronics and navigation systems. The good old compass still worked, however, and thanks to the still functioning satellite tracker and phones on board, the shore team has managed to keep in touch and guide Coindre on the best route towards Madagascar. A surprisingly booming sport for the most extreme and experienced athletes, ocean water rowing over the last decades has evolved into a real discipline. The very first deliberate ocean crossing on a rowboat was the Atlantic back in 1896. It took 55 days for the Norwegian duo Samuelsen and Harbo to cover the 3,250 nautical miles separating Manhattan from the Isles of Scilly. Records then leap forward to the very birth of the movement in 1969 and the rivalry between 2 British pioneers, John Fairfax and Tom McLean. With their iconic duel along separate Atlantic crossings, they proved it could be done. Since then, many men and women have set many records in solo and also in crews of 2, 3s, and even 4s. First crossed by the Swede Anders Svedlund in 1971, Coindre and his faithful long course are now about to conquer the Indian Ocean route from Western Australia to Madagascar. NC Sports will keep you posted with the latest updates, results, and comments upon his arrival. You heard it right here last week. The Extreme Sailing Series is launching a spectacular 2014. And now a few excerpts from the next edition of Top Story for a very special season preview and an NC Sports Online chat with ESS race director Phil Lawrence. Thanks for being with us, Phil. You have an exciting season that will bring lots of novelties like new venues and an incredible circus that you move around the world. Not an easy feat. Much of the success of the ESS circuit has been thanks to its original formula based on the concept of stadium racing. Do you think you've met those early expectations and reached some of those goals?
Well, the game moves on every year. This will be my fourth season of running the underwater activities at Extreme Sailing. And each year we've been able to package the racing tighter and tighter to bring it closer to the fans, to keep the flow of the event going quicker, so shorter gaps between races. And now on a typical day, we would run eight races in an afternoon, right in front of the fans, right in front of the VIP marquees.
The Extreme Sailing Series presented its new Globetrotting 2014 racing program at the recent London Boat Show, and the announcement of Ben Ainsley and Franck Cammas both rejoining the ESS with full-on teams did not go unnoticed. But make no mistake, in an already star-studded and hugely competitive circuit like this one, these two will likely have their hands full in the next few months.
I think it's such a strong fleet when you look at all of the teams. There's a huge amount of talent out there. Yeah, it's great that we've got Lee and Rob, who have both won the series previously, and Lee obviously being the defending champion, so they clearly have got the pedigree in this type of racing. And for us, probably we're the underdogs because it's a new thing for us. So we'll be trying our best to be at the right end of the fleet, and it'd be great to see Brit 1, 2, 3.
Get the full background on the upcoming Extreme Sailing Series. Stay tuned for the next edition of NC Sports Top Story. Plunge into the action with NC Sports.